This is Meteo Mundo.
Hi everyone, Rusty back here with your latest Meteo Mundo forecast on Hurricane Tammy. We'll cover the Saturday 5 p.m. advisory from the National Hurricane Center. Now, Tammy continues to move through the Leeward Islands. It's a compact hurricane, but we'll talk about the potential impacts for the remainder of the Leeward Islands as we get into Saturday night and early on Sunday. Now, in the last couple of forecasts, I've asked you guys to drop comments below about where your viewing is from and the weather that you're seeing. We appreciate that. I'd love for you to do it again in this forecast. I think it'd be very interesting for everyone to kind of get an idea of what you're seeing, especially if you live in the islands that could be impacted by Tammy. Now, from the 5 p.m. advisory from the Hurricane Center, winds are still 85 miles an hour, but that is a very small core of wind right around Tammy. The hurricane force winds do not extend very far out, and we'll talk about how that could impact what we see in the Leeward Islands as we move through late Saturday and early Sunday. Moving north-northwest at 10, so more of a northerly track right now, but again, still going to take it through the heart of the Leeward Islands. Pressure is at 988 millibars. And just like the last couple of videos, I'll be back in just a second, but I'm taking myself off screen so we can go full screen and kind of really take a good look at what's happening with Tammy right now. First of all, the news was really good for Guadeloupe. Tammy stayed just east of the island by about 25 miles, but that was just far enough away to keep the core of those strong winds off of the island. So Guadeloupe, you're still going to see some good rain and breezy conditions, but the worst has passed you. Now that we've had a flare up of storms just to the east of Antigua, and Antigua, again, it does look like you guys are going to stay away from the actual center of circulation. It is going to be a pretty close approach here. I'm going to take away some of this, but we'll take much more look at the winds coming up. But just to show you again, right now, Antigua, kind of from the far eastern side of the island, about 20 miles from that center track. But the hurricane winds are mainly along the center and east of the center track. So staying west where Antigua is right now is a very good thing, even if it is just 20 miles. However, down the road, our friends in Barbuda, I think that's going to be the one island that we really have to talk about the potential for some hurricane conditions. Let's look at real quickly what's happening right now. I'm going to swing on the winds here. And again, these live winds after the 5 o'clock advisory, these are gusts. They're still not significant in Antigua. That is great news. I expect them to freshen up. I expect them to become sustained tropical storm force winds over 39 miles an hour. But again, more than likely, we're going to try and keep the core of those hurricane winds a little bit away from the island. And again, as you get even a little bit farther off towards the west, like St. Kitts and Nevis and St. Martin and St. Barthélemy, and other places like Saba and St. Eustatius and Anguilla, the farther west that you go, the better the wind situation is going to be. We're going to have, obviously, the opportunity for some very heavy rainfall in this area, but with this being such a compact hurricane, the wind fields are so small in nature. So I've put on kind of the forecast winds. And again, you can see we keep certainly the strongest winds away from the islands that I just mentioned, but it is Barbuda with that center track right over the island. And again, during that time frame, the Hurricane Center keeps winds at 85 miles an hour. So real quickly, I do want to go over the watches and warnings as of the 5 p.m. advisory. A hurricane warning continues for all of the Leeward Islands except for Saba and St. Eustatius. You are under a hurricane watch and a tropical storm warning, and then a tropical storm watch continues for the British Virgin Islands. Discontinued hurricane warning for Guadeloupe, no longer in effect, and the same thing for the tropical storm watch that was occurring in Martinique. So let's take a look at the satellite imagery out of Tammy right now. If you notice to the south, and the reason why I'm showing you this, there is deep moisture coming in with south winds on the southern edge of Tammy. It's really flared up some storms. Apologize for that. Zoomed in a little too quickly. It's really bringing in some good storms to places like Barbados and St. Vincent and especially St. Lucia, and kind of moving up the island chain. So even behind Tammy, we're seeing some heavy downpours and some breezing conditions. But again, Tammy is moving away from you. We're not going to have to worry about the strong winds associated with the core of the hurricane. And again, I'm going to throw on the forecast track from the Hurricane Center on this. And you can see, again, that blow up of storms right over the northern side. That, again, is impressive, and it's going to probably flare up the winds right around the center of circulation. And it is Barbuda that I would have the most concern about for more sustained potential for hurricane conditions out of any other leeward island here as we move through this evening and overnight. And again, looking at the winds out of this, we have not seen significant winds as of yet. There's actually been a little bit of a fresher wind towards St. Martin and towards the British and U.S. Virgin Islands. We've had some winds that have peaked around 25 to 30, but even the last couple of hours, those winds have died back down a little bit. So again, the latest information on Tammy is going to be that we have a hurricane, but it's a very compact hurricane. And we're going to see strong winds. We're going to have the potential for hurricane conditions across portions of the Leeward Islands. But the fact that Tammy is so compact leads us to believe that the hurricane winds will stay very confined to the center and just east, and hopefully avoid several of the Leeward Islands as we move through tonight and overnight. Going to show you the NAM model. We'll put this into motion for you, friends. And again, it's buying the solution of the Hurricane Center as far as track goes. And you can see it moving right up through the northern Leeward Islands tonight and overnight. Tammy could actually strengthen a little bit more as it gets north of the Leeward Islands late in the day on Sunday and into Monday. But there's a lot of discrepancy right now in what Tammy does as it moves away from the islands. But certainly the rainfall could be a big impact for Tammy as well. So I'm going to pop back on screen here, and we're going to look at the 5 p.m. advisory on this Saturday, the wording from the Hurricane Center, and it really hasn't changed since the last advisory. Again, tropical storm force winds are expected through a large portion of the Leeward Islands. Hurricane winds are possible, but in a very small radius along the path and just east of the center of circulation. Look, the point I'm trying to get at is that no two hurricanes are the same, and this one is certainly built different. The winds are so tightly confined in a small space around the eye for hurricane force. That's a great thing. It keeps the majority of the Leeward Islands away from the core of those hurricane force winds. You would almost have to be on the center line or just east of the center, like Barbuda might be, to really see those sustained hurricane conditions, at least for a time. Now, the rain is going to be more widespread to go along with the tropical storm force winds. So, Martinique and Dominica, I mentioned the south winds still bringing in ample moisture. An additional 2 to 4 inches of rain, up to 6 inches, is still possible on those islands. For the remainder of the Leeward Islands, it's 4 to 8 inches and still a maximum of 12. The Virgin Islands and the eastern side of Puerto Rico, 1 to 2, a maximum of 4. Those potential rainfall totals have not changed actually in a while from the Hurricane Center. And those kinds of rains can lead to urban and flash flooding and certainly some mudslides in higher terrain. So please be cautious of that. We're going to see some really dynamic sea conditions out there. Storm surge, especially on the eastern sides of the islands, it still could be 1 to 3 feet. Dangerous swells that will last for several days, even after Tammy moves to the north. Rip current conditions that could be very dangerous and life-threatening. And again, for all of the latest information, in any emergency planning that you need to do, we urge you to consult your local officials and your local government for that detailed information. That is beyond the scope, of course, what we do here at Meteo Mundo. We talk about the forecast and the potential, track of that. But again, what you need to do across the area and to protect yourself. That, again, we urge you to check in with your local officials. So real quick, back to this. I want to show you one more time what Tammy looks like as of the 5 o'clock advisory. And I got to be honest, things could certainly be a lot worse. Tammy is still a hurricane of 85-mile-per-hour winds, but those winds are so compact, those areas in pink. Notice again, we're going to miss the majority of the Leeward Islands with those strongest winds. Now, the areas that I'm most concerned about would obviously include Antigua, as we're seeing a blowup of storms moving just to the east right now. But again, the core should stay east of the island, and certainly Barbuda. I mean, that center line track from the Hurricane Center is right over Barbuda. And as a matter of fact, if we're looking about how far away we are from Barbuda, if I draw this out, that's about 50 miles. It's moving at 10 miles an hour. So in about 5 hours, roughly 10 p.m. Atlantic Standard Time, we would expect the core of Tammy to potentially be moving over Barbuda. So just to give you guys a heads up on the timing of that. Again, we'll keep you updated here at Meteo Mundo. We appreciate you liking the video. We appreciate you subscribing to the channel for the latest forecast. If you want to support our new channel, you can find that information in the description. And again, thank you much for tuning in. We send our very best to our friends in the Leeward Islands. We hope you get out of this as well as possible, and we'll see you next time real soon right here at Meteo Mundo.